All
Okay.
right. Good. All right. So you're Max, and how do you spell your last name?
Strand, Strand.
Oh, like the bookstore here.
Exactly.
The guys who pay me 8 cents on the dollar when I got to dump books. I still use books here and there.
Hmm.
Um, Hardbacks are the ones to keep.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
they're much more valuable than people think.
Really? I have a friend who used to sell books on like Amazon. You would, go around, go to different bookstores, collect whatever books he thought were valuable and then resell them. And I remember him saying the hardbacks, hardcovers were the way to go.
Well, you read a soft cover. You read it once, it's really unsaleable, actually, unless you're like super fastidious. But so Max, what was your role on the wonderful film Rockies?
I wrote and directed it
Your
with
dialogue.
my friend Ben Cohen, who is in the
Right.
waiting room right now. He just texted me.
Oh, there you go. Let's admit
Yeah,
him. There we go. All right. So where are you, Ben?
he's coming in.
There he is.
He is.
I know how to spell Cohen and Ben, so you don't have to spell the name for me.
How's it going?
Who wrote this? Your dialogue was excellent. It was
Thank you.
brought me back to my days in the teens and early 20s.
Where'd you grow up?
I never grew up. Mm, but um East Coast, Bucks County, Philadelphia,
Oh, nice.
moved up to I-95 to New York after that first divorce.
Got you, got you, got you. Where are we talking to you from now? Where are you right now?
I'm in Fort Greene, Brooklyn, where
Oh, okay.
actually Colson Whitehead comes from, who wrote the book that Nickel Boys is.
Mm.
That's
So
right, that's right. I want to check
I
that
can't say I'm the best writer in the neighborhood yet.
out. Well, we both live like about 15-minute drive north of you. I live in South Williamsburg and Max lives in East Williamsburg.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Creative. They already went upscale before Fort Greene, but Fort Greene's on a tear.
Fort Green's on its way up. One of the producers, Josh Michaels of Rockies, lives in Fort Greene.
Well,
Yeah.
there's 5 or 6 high rises going up at the same time.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah, always.
Brooklyn doesn't even, it makes New York look like they had conservative zoning or something. We're really actually in the Wild West of zoning, I think, in Brooklyn.
Yeah, yeah.
But, I liked your film. I mean, when you wrote your dialogue, which was so good, were you like interchanging? What was your process on that? Did you like, I threw a line out and you're two of these characters and that kind of thing?
Yeah, you're spot on, kind of like we felt like we knew the characters really well, so we had their like voices inside of our heads, and then we actually like did this thing where we would project the computer onto a television, and one of us would be kind of like typing or like we said manning the wheel, I guess that's what we kept on saying. And the other one would kind of be like walking around pacing, and we would just sort of like shout the lines back at each other and then be like, "Oh, I like that joke. We can fit that in," or "Oh, yeah, that was good." And then there are many drafts, so sometimes as we edited, one of us would get an idea for a scene or something would happen in our own lives that kind of reminded us of the predicament one of the characters were in, and be like, "Oh, actually, we think he'd be in this frame of mind during this scene, so let's go back and let's look at this," and then we would kind of set it up again how it was before with the TV on and one of us typing and talk out the scene and then try to get as much of it down as on the page as possible and then work through that a little bit more and then sleep on it and then see what we got.
How many drafts were there over how many years?
Well, that's a
Oh,
good story. Yeah.
what did you say, Max?
I was saying it's a good story because I mean Ben, you could tell the story better than me, but Ben first wrote or drafted this. I mean, how many years ago? Probably 15 years ago.
Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah, Max and I, we've been friends since we were in kindergarten. So we've
Oh,
known
that's
each other a
cool.
long time, but we went our separate ways for college, and I was working on a draft of this in school, just going home and seeing my friends in the summer and over Thanksgiving and Christmas breaks, and then we reconnected in the city like 4 or 5 years after we graduated from school, and I'd been producing a lot, and I told Max about this idea I'd had when I was in college and how maybe we should try to rewrite it, and the concept of it being in real time and all taking place in the parking lot of the deli, I think stayed, but when we sat down to do it together, I think it was mostly kind of new stuff. I think the very first draft was more less story and more character kind of waiting around because he wanted to run into a woman that he used to like when they were in high school and hoping that he could kind of have a conversation with her. The stakes were ramped up a little bit when we sat down to work on it together.
Yeah. So this version of the script is probably around 10 years old, and then we've been constantly, taking breaks and going back to it. And I think that was really helpful because, by the time we were shooting it, kind of going back to the dialogue question, like we knew the characters so well. So like as we were writing and had to change things, the characters, I think, both felt so distinctive, but also we naturally knew right away how these characters would react. So that was very helpful in the writing and the rewriting and then the shooting process.
Well, that's really cool. I mean, there's a lot of very successful brother teams out there, and because nobody can trust anybody in this business, probably inherently.
Yeah.
So when you go way back, you're almost virtually brothers. I think that's part of it. I mean, it's an incredible track record with brother teams if you look at it in this business.
Mhm.
Yeah, it seems like the
Not many
Coen brothers are
sister
getting back
teams, though.
together.
I don't know what that is.
I was just gonna say we were very fortunate that we, obviously know each other so well and grew up with each other and we were able to make a movie about such great friends. So, it was really
Where did
such
you
an
grow up?
amazing experience. In Westchester, New York.
Okay. Both of
Yeah.
you were in Westchester. So
Mhm.
it's kind of like semi-suburbs.
Yeah, yeah. And I'd actually say, I was producing a film by Bernardo Brito called Jacqueline Argentine at the time we started writing this script. And we shot most of the movie in Argentina, and then we're gonna have to wait a while to shoot the stuff that takes place in Miami, and that was being edited. So I kind of had a window when I came back, and my mom had been diagnosed with an illness that eventually took her life at the time. And I think like I had reconnected with Max and we've been friends for so long. So there was an element of wanting to write, but also like I felt it felt comfortable to like be with him all the time during this hard experience.
Yeah.
So I think like that feeling of taking comfort and reconnecting, a lot of the movie is kind of about those themes. So it was like paralleled, like what we were writing about and what kind of we were experiencing. And I think it like in some ways allowed for us to talk about the experience we were having through the script while we could just kind of relax and have fun together and have some laughs and hang out and watch sports in the evening and stuff like that.
So you had been making features before this one yourself? And how was your background? How did you slide into that?
I got kind of lucky. I went to Brown for college, Brown University, and I took one semester at NYU Film School in London, and I met two filmmakers, James Benson and Bernardo Brito. And I got a real job like right out of school, but then that kind of collective of them two and some of their friends that they were at NYU with, we just started making some short films like right out of school. We got really lucky with like the film festival stuff and the films kind of did well there. And then Bernardo had a really successful short film that I produced called Yearbook, and that energy allowed him to make his feature Jacqueline in Argentine, and which I produced, in a subsequent feature Omni Loop that I produced that just came out this past year as well.
That was Omni Loop is your feature.
Yeah, yeah, which I produced for Bernardo wrote and directed.
Okay.
And yeah, I was getting experience producing and always was interested in writing as well. And Max and I started writing the script, and yeah, just it felt really good to write, and we loved the characters and the setting and some of the jokes. But it took us a little while, I think, to kind of figure out what the point of the story was. Not that like the characters go through these great changes or anything, but maybe they learn something in that parking lot that inspires them to go on and change. And like what we wanted them to learn or to be thinking about, it took us for a while to figure out. And then once we figured that out, then I felt like, okay, like we got to go and like just make this. And that's why we got kind of like a shoestring budget together and went to that one location, got an awesome cast, which was like a miracle.
Yeah, and
The
they're all young and you
yeah,
bonded. It was like as an ensemble, they were as tight as some of the older actor ensembles that were very good that I've seen. They just hit. Now, how did you do
Yeah.
that?
I think we got incredibly lucky. We had an incredible casting team. Um,
yeah. Beyond the luck, too, it's like I shared the script with Kate Geller. I'd worked on a
yeah.
couple films with, and she thought that Taylor Williams would be a great person to bring on to help cast the film. And Taylor had worked in plays mostly in the theater world, so she'd been casting stuff for a long time in New York and had kind of like known a lot of the up and coming exciting talent in the theater world, and she was able to put like a bunch of those people in front of us, and that was kind of like an incredible experience because just watching them read the lines that we've been writing and thinking about for so long, all of a sudden it like felt real. And we knew like it would be in good hands because of some of like the amazing talent that we were like watching. And then yeah, so Taylor was really instrumental in putting that
The
this cast
casting.
together.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I'll say too, you hit the nail on the head that the cast also got along so well. So I think that really, they got along so well off screen, which I think translated on screen, which, we were just so happy about. And they're all, still friends today, which is great.
Did they all kind of grow up East Coast, or you got a couple West Coast kids in there?
I think they're all East Coast for the most part. Some
Yeah,
some
a lot in the
Midwest,
New
maybe.
York area. Gil, I think was originally from Kansas.
Kansas, yeah.
And but the funny thing is like when we all sat down to do the table reading for the script before we started shooting, we all talked about our kind of experience. And, while the deli was specific to the experience Max and I had together, like every one of them had the kind of place that they could go when they no longer wanted to be in their parents' house, but didn't have a place of their own yet, that they could just hang out at and meet up with their friends. So that like experience was super universal. So I think they were all able to kind of draw on that. And then also, being in upstate New York to shoot the film, all staying at the same motel, it gave them the opportunity to kind of become like their own friend group with their own inside jokes and with their own energy. And sometimes things that were on the page like took on kind of a life of its own, with what the actors were bringing to the table.
I think what was there? Is it six? The returning guy? Did he return to five people that were behind, or was
Mhm.
it four? What was the?
It
Was
was
five
one
or
guy returning to five
yeah,
friends, so a
one to
total of
five.
six. Yeah.
So it's the return of the sentient six or something.
I know I don't know how much Max and I should like embarrass ourselves in this interview, but when we were like freshmen in high school, there was a group of six of us that were really, really close that I think we used to call like the high six or something. It was really kind of juvenile, but maybe that's where the number six came from. But it
Yeah.
was always going to be six when we sat down to write, so I guess it was kind of ingrained in our thinking, unfortunately.
Those are cool times in life when you've got your army together. I had a couple times like that. Also, I had 3 or 4 neighborhoods that were anchored by that deli. In this neighborhood where I live now, there's Green Bites, the Syrian and Yemeni guys own it.
Mhm.
And when I was in West Philly at the University of Pennsylvania, there was the one corner place right off of where it was, and my last place in Hell's Kitchen, it was a little smaller and anchoring, but you anchor around a place like that where you go in and get some. So that's a mise en scène, as we say. Any of you read any Godard?
Yeah, when I was, first in
Yeah.
school, growing up, in Westchester, it's like you have access to the city, but then once I got to school, I realized how much I was kind of like missing out on because there was like you know, growing up loving movies, but then being exposed to the Godard stuff there, like, you know, Breathless and Contempt and Weekend, it really kind of blows your mind with what's sort of possible. And that was a really exciting time because that was also around the time where I started thinking about this film and kind of what we could do with just one location, really lightweight camera equipment, you know.
Did you
So
use the camera? And what was your
Say it
camera?
one more time.
What cameras did you use?
we used Ari Alexa
Yeah,
for
the
this.
Alexa.
The Alexa. Okay.
Mhm.
I ran one of the first articles on the Alexa years ago.
Yeah.
Uh, uh, so, what did you study in school? Each of you?
I
Max?
I studied film and TV. So
At?
I at in Philadelphia at Drexel University.
Oh, no kidding. I know Drexel well.
Oh yeah. Yeah, so that was great. It's a really like hands-on film equipment, filmmaking program. And then from there I went right into like the Philly film scene.
Which is
Uh
small. That's why I left.
that's why I left too. But at the time I
People are good. They're all
yeah,
dedicated.
the people are amazing and we had a nice little run when I was there. We did like Silver Linings Playbook, Limitless, um movies like that. But then yeah, then kind of dried up for a little bit, came to my, home of New York. So it worked out perfectly for me and yeah.
I was actually once, when I was in college, took a film course at University of Pennsylvania. I went to Dickinson. It was way out in Carlisle, near Harrisburg, little town, but old, private. For some reason, they gave me a scholarship because when I was being interviewed, it was founded by Benjamin Rush, and I was living in Philly then. They just knocked down the man's house. It was just before they, everything became historic, and they just knocked it down. Just in the middle of the interview, I said, "Oh yeah, Benjamin Rush founded the college." They just knocked his house down, and they were like shocked. They knocked down our founder's house. So they gave me a half scholarship. I said, "Okay, fine." That's how these things happen. Um, so
Um,
you
I
studied.
uh, I studied English and urban studies in school, but the funny thing about that is I wrote like a 20-page paper in 2010 about congestion pricing, if you want me to share it with because we're now it's on the top of everyone's mind, but I was early to the subject matter, I guess.
Yeah, it happens. My son actually was really one of the first people to write about texting and driving being a problem.
Right. It's still a huge problem.
It's
No
somewhere.
problem, yeah.
Um,
I mean that the cell phone plays a role in the setting of our film because we kind of talk about how it was before smartphones, so people would text, but not quite as frequently. And now when we're meeting up with friends, I mean it's different now because Max and I both have like families, but in our 20s, it was always like, texting, trying to see something going on tonight, something going on tonight. And then you end up staying home if nothing ends up happening. But back when the film was set, like we would all just kind of show up at the deli because that's where we would meet up and decide what we were going to do for the night. And then it forced us to kind of create our own fun together as opposed to sitting around waiting. We always used to say like a good night started in the parking lot of Rocky's and it ended in the parking lot of Rocky's because like we would get together, find out about something, drive to it. It would inevitably get like broken up. Then we drive back to the parking lot, maybe hear about something else, drive there, it would get broken up, come back and get a sandwich. And then it just is what was able to like sustain our evenings that we had this kind of unsupervised place to hang out and relax.
well,
Yeah,
it's
and looking
as
back at it, yeah.
insane as you can go. You got a location that anchors you.
Yeah,
Exactly.
and looking back, it's those times. It's not the parties or whatever that we remember the most. It's just the times hanging out in the parking lot just with your friends. That's the most memorable, obviously for us. I made a movie about it, but that's what the movie tries to capture is those in between moments.
Well, I think the point of the film was that, in the second run realized that these kids get involved in a few things that are a little seedy, but it just shows basically they just got good hearts and, don't feel so worried about the kids coming up that they still got the right spirit, basically.
Yeah, I think
Yeah, I
Max
think
is
yeah.
integral a lot to that. So he can he can tell you, but I think Max, you know, always has this kind of like, even though our friends we actually grew up with and people we knew have had some challenges, I think Max always tries to find like an optimistic outlook to what's going on, and I think that was you know,
Yeah.
important.
Well, I think again, another thing that I think was important for us in the movie was showing that growing up is hard, you know, and growing up this time in your life when you're transitioning from kid to adult is not an easy time. And as much as people want to grow up or want to, or go on paths of getting in fights or drinking or partying too much, when you're home and when you're with the people who know you best and people you grow up with, like you're a kid again. And everybody, everyone is just like everyone is really just these kind of innocent kids, deep down. And it's
Yeah,
finding
that
those like little
brings it back.
moments that are
I,
so special that you have with that your friends growing up that you don't necessarily have that same relationship or connection with
yeah,
people always outside of that.
or family. It
Yeah.
could be family too, if
Yeah.
you're actually a close family. I thought, yeah, that scene where they were running away at the real run, where they were, I just remembered, boy, when I could run like that, it just brought it all back, like they were just rolling.
Yeah, I think it's a feeling most high school kids could relate to is the cops, you hear the sirens and running away, So
And older ones will remember like what it was like being a kid, and it's a whole different time, a whole different. But
mhm.
your body was something, the mind is much better, but the body quite doesn't hold up.
I mean, we're starting to learn that for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually, when I took that course at University of Pennsylvania, I was real radical. This was in the 70s. And I had Amos Vogel for my course. It was like
Oh, right.
and I thought this guy was just throwing out bourgeois nonsense. Then I find out like 10 years later, he wrote, film is a subversive art. How bourgeois was that? You know,
Right.
when you're that young, you think you really know it past them.
Mhm.
Yeah, when I was in school, I got to take courses in the semiotics program at Brown, where like,
we hate semiotics.
yeah. And it was a whole new vocabulary that, some of it went like totally above my head, if I'm being honest with you, but like there's some real like pioneers of the thought, and it was an interesting exposure for sure, but also it was amazing to take those courses because we'd have to like 2 times a week watch like 3 films in a row sometimes for the course load, and just sitting and
That's pretty,
watching so
yeah.
many amazing things. Just you can't like even
You're
understand the impact
still
that has on
an
you.
undergraduate. I mean,
Mhm.
uh, it's, more than 3 films. They hit the 3 on a day. It gets a little tight for me to do. I have done 3 days, couple hours. I try to keep it to 2 when I see them. I'm the guy who gets all the under the radar films. So I've seen 200 films since I incorporated 2 years ago. To almost 200. And almost every one of them is below the radar. So uh I just feel about your film that as a sleeper, I think 15 years ago it would have I think it could have just easily grooved into like the Kevin Smith rise. It's just there's so many films out there now, you know.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
that's a huge compliment. Thank you
Yeah,
for
thank you so much.
saying that. Yeah. I mean, it's challenging. There's so many movies every year, and we hope that a few people find it and really love it, and who knows what could happen at that point. But
Yeah. And we appreciate you finding the under the radar films and
yeah.
bringing it to light.
Just people may say, well, how tough indie film is. I would say that almost all the films are watchable that have come through. Out of 200, maybe 10 or 12, I would just like, um, you know, And I don't say nothing about those films. They just don't get mentioned. I mean, I'm not here to like act like I can tell people what's a great film or a good. I can tell you what a great film is for me, but to say a film is doesn't work, I don't see what the big advantage is unless you're in a course and you have to teach somebody something from it. That, oh, that scene was too long, or they didn't develop that theme or whatever. That's like, if the film works, it works. Some films just pop out, and this one did. You nailed it on this. I really believe.
Oh,
And
thank you so much.
If you don't mind me asking, I'm curious then, like, because you said, some films are perfect for you, and you can say that. Like, what are some of the films that, inspired you to kind of incorporate and start watching so many independent films and supporting them? Like, what are some of the pivotal experiences?
I started doing a film about indie film festivals called Festival Junkies, which is now at like 1,300 hours and interviews, which is whatever, and B-roll and all kinds of crazy shit. I'm actually now, because of my building my site and the publication, I'm able to now put the video up. I have a channel with 36 videos up there, but we'll be up to 300 easily by next year, and hopefully the formation of Festival Junkies will just start falling into place then, but it has to be out within 2 years. So finally the end of the long run. I think I've learned some stuff. It's changed a lot here and there in very many ways, but it's been fun. I mean, the films that influenced me I'm older. Before I got into, the one that killed me, like that I walked out on a high, was the original MASH.
Yeah.
And saw a lot of John Sayles films. John Sayles is a hell of a guy. He used to be in the indie scene a lot. We were with IFP when they were like one of the only independent film organizations. A lot of people came out of there, you know, people who run Focus Features. And so those kinds of films that, just when you walk out of it, you say, wow, they just hit it,
Right.
And other films, sometimes they're on a little bit more indirect directions. And, who are you to say? I mean, I saw some that I didn't quite understand that were, executed well in terms of developing their characters. I mean, that they didn't quite pull it together. And then the problem is the star thing. I don't know what that does subconsciously to professional actors further in, but I think your guys didn't have to suffer from that. If they know they're not then listed as A actors, can they do an A performance when they've got other actors who all think they're Bs or on their way to being A's? But, is there something that stops that?
Yeah, well, I mean, after shooting Rockies, just this group, like, I can't wait to see what they go on and do, and I know that they're gonna find some like amazing roles, and it'll be cool, I think, at some point to like look back and see that they were, you know, all in this movie together, and we'll be able to go back and watch it and just smile. I think there's so much pressure that's put on it like now of like seeing what's kind of response there's going to be and things like that, and everybody kind of gets in their own head about like what festival a movie's playing or what the credentials are. But I mean, I always think about, yeah, like this is probably, there'll be new problems on bigger films, and there'll be different types of headaches, and we'll probably look back on eating like pizza 3 out of 5 meals, being in the motel, and just those would kind of be the glory days. And
Yeah, I know what you're saying. There's 10 minutes left. So do you guys want to throw an extra 30 on? Do you have the time?
I could chat more for sure. I have time.
Okay, we got 10 here. Maybe we'll just go and maybe do another one, but only do 20 minutes or something like that.
Okay, perfect.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah.
once you get things rolling, I hate when it just pops. It'll still do that anyway, I'm sure, but oh, bye. you know.
Mhm.
The
Yeah.
red quotes, I
Yeah,
like it, the
we could
red
see the
quotes.
clock in the upper right hand corner. So
Yeah, cool.
Yeah,
My
and
clock is totally out of, I don't know what, oh, there it is. I see the one that works.
mhm.
Yeah, the Zoom seems to look different every time. I've done about 30 of them, and I'm just every time. If you don't do it just like super stupid, easy, simple kiss, then it starts getting weird. If you just stay right with the 2, 3 things you got to do, boom, boom, it's no problem, you know. It's a really great service in that sense.
It is.
Uh, I do think that yeah, you guys look like you've learned how to make a good Zoom. You don't move around too much and too close to the screen, and
Over the last few years, I think we've been on hundreds of Zooms.
really.
yeah, just the unfortunate reality of the
Yeah.
living through the pandemic, I guess, is
Yeah,
kind of
definitely.
totally accustomed to Zoom.
So did you do some of the work on the film by Zoom with some of the people when you had to work on a scene or
We
something?
did actually. We did a lot of pre-production, like with like actors and casting. We did a lot of Zoom kind of meetings with them and readings with them actually on Zoom. Um, and then yeah, a lot of I think back in the day, this would have been a production where we would get a big production office and be meeting all the time. But with the advent of Zoom and everything, I think we're also accustomed to having meetings like this. So definitely, yeah.
Well, we're doing amazing jobs as filmmakers in cutting the cost on the production end. It used to be the prints and advertise P&A budget. So
Mhm.
we're getting the prints down to nothing. That doesn't mean they should throw away the ad budget too.
Mhm.
This is I think that's the core battle that we have to stage with the people who control the big distribution pipeline. They've got to accept the fact that we're bringing them their crap, and we're bringing them cheap. So don't play games with, oh, okay. So that's there's no inherent reason that Hollywood, which has control of the distribution from a business perspective, has to like focus it just Hollywood type of thought and business sector, and the other guys can't make any money or get their money back if they don't have a big studio system or whatever, so the accountant know where the money is from the start. You're doing this all yourself, you know. And people are being producers and directors and throwing themselves in it if they have to, like Sales did a lot. He was a very good actor, um, but we're going to have to make a change. I hope you guys are on board for that. I hope by after we get a bunch of our stories up and some of the other material that we need to, the PGA is like a photo opportunity group or something, you know. Uh, uh, I mean, because a guild's probably inherently not consistent with entrepreneurial producers anyway, so they don't know how to do it. But we just, as individual American humans, we have to get the deals a little bit more set so that people taking the risk like this, will at
Yeah.
least have them throw some marketing at it, give it a shot, since they're going to control it anyway. Does that sound like a reasonable kind of direction?
I think I have three brothers, and my parents used to go on a date every, Saturday night, and they'd go see a movie like 75% of the time. And then on a rainy day when like all of our stuff was canceled, we all go to the movies as a family. So that meant like you can guarantee a certain number of like tickets sold to the Cohen family each year. And we would kind of go as an event, and then we would see what was playing and pick something. I think now, and there's so much opportunities to entertain yourself like at home, people really only go to the things that there's like a lot of buzz around, and those movies still do well theatrically. But like so it becomes kind of boom or bust, because on the ones that aren't getting like that much buzz or that much publicity around them, it's hard for people to find. And still the business is set up to track, ticket sales and things like that. But with the reality that so many people are watching at home, I think there's just gonna be a lot to like figure out in terms of how to make it sustainable for filmmakers that are
Yeah, I
making.
think there should be a number, like how much of a percentage of a budget, for instance, should be committed to marketing and advertising, or that kind of thing. We get a number established, or you can't leave the producer in a position where he's got the whole financial responsibility and not hardly any of the upside. There has to be some standards that everybody knows, and that's probably a problem with the film schools. That they should be teaching that part of it, as to what we should be shooting for in deals.
Yeah, I think that would be useful. Right now it's kind of like the wild, wild west. You sort of learn as you go and figure out what's gonna make sense. It's cool to see things like, Letterbox pop up, because like now you can at least acknowledge that a lot of people are watching these kind of like smaller films that come out, and that there's passionate people discussing it. So you see, or you can notice the kind of impact. I don't know how that's gonna end up correlating to financial return yet, but I'm sure there's a lot that's going to have to get sorted out over the next number of years.
Yeah, I mean, the great American novelist is, probably most likely to be a filmmaker now. There are people who are writing books too, actually. I think that in certain, I'm actually working on a book, but that's what they told me at Slam Dance. That was another place where I saw some amazing films, early on when I got into the festival thing. In fact, there was an amazing Jackie Bissett movie that somebody forced me to watch because I was trying to keep getting more footage of interviews, and I wasn't watching anything. And now it's more I watch films all the time, and I don't even want to leave the house most of the time. They send them in. We'll watch it. But it's hard with the narratives. Most of them just fall a little short of the mark. But yours is just, I mean, they'll tell you it's going to be harder to market because you don't have stars, but at least there isn't any question that the film works all the way through. And I think 3 of those guys are going to make it as actors, and I think 2 will probably be producers. So that would be out of that whole group, looking at the way they, was the guy who had the lighter skin guy, the one with the freckles and all. Was he Socks? That was his character's name? The one who was like,
Stephen Maier.
Stephen Maier, yeah, played Socks.
Yeah. He's going to have a good character actor.
Yeah, we knew that character had to kind of be larger than life. And yeah, Stephen was just like from the get-go, from his audition, we were just like, man, that guy is Socks for sure. So we
you knew him right away, right?
We knew right away.
Yeah. That was like, it was, regardless of, how in demand an actor is or anything like that, like it was almost like when I saw his audition, I was like, if he doesn't do it, like I don't even know. Now that I've seen this, like we need to get this guy to do it. And then I was lucky enough to work with Steven on Omni Loop as well, and we've stayed close, and I just am constantly talking to him about what's coming next. And
I see we have less than a minute here.
Yeah.
This session. But so we'll follow up. I'm going to send you a link. Take a couple minute break till it gets there. And Karen's there, right?
She's not here with us now.
Oh, but I need an email to put on there.
Okay, I'll put an email in the chat right now, and then you email the link to me, and I'll forward it to Max.
Okay, this will be the second time I've used that chat, but now I see its function. Okay, thanks.
So Benjamin, yeah,
I got it. I see it. All right.
We'll see you in a few.
Yeah. Take a break, and how about 5 minutes?
Okay.
5 minutes. Okay.
Well, then we're just going to hit on whatever the thing is anyway, but we'll go on.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.